The fourth move I want to consider is the move knight takes e4. Afterwards, black should certainly capture this bishop. Not only black gain the bishop pair, but right now black is stopping white to castle on the king side. If this white knight is going to the g3, then the d4 pawn drops. So that's why the most logical reply over here for the white is to play knight to c3 and harassing the queen. And here black should play the move queen to a6. So continue to stop white castling on the king side. And at this point you can see, if you look at carefully, black has offered a pawn to the white. And this is what happened in most of the scenario. Most of my opponent greedily capture this pawn. They think that okay, we have a chance of forking king and a queen, but this line is very good for the black. Now before we look at that line, there's one more try done by the white, which is white try to save this loose pawn on d4. And in one of my game, my opponent played the move bishop to e3, but such a passive move will only help black to gain the control. So after bishop to e3, black should capture this knight, and after white recapture, black should castle on the queen side. And not only black has continuously stopping white to castle on the king side, but black has this wonderful bishop pair, and in some lines this d4 advance occurs, and that can create havoc in the white camp. So this line is pretty good for the black. So that's why the most logical reply over here is knight takes d5, and here again I recommend that black should castle on the queen side and attack that knight. Now the only good line here for the white is to play knight to f7, attacking both the rook and give up the knight. And here black should certainly capture this knight, which allows white to capture the rook. But now black can play the move knight takes d4, and now you can see the first threat is looming, which is knight takes c2. So white is forced to play rook to c1. Afterwards black will give this wonderful check, which is queen to e6. Now the only reply left here is king to f1, because if white plays bishop to e3, that will lose the queen immediately after knight takes c2. So that's why king to f1 is pretty much forced, and after king to f1, black will again give the check by the queen. So queen to a6 check. And if you look at carefully, I have highlighted by the arrows that if the king goes to the g1, then knight to e2 check will at least gain a rook, and if king goes back again to the e1 square, then black can gain the vital a2 pawn, and this turned out very well for black. So that's why in the game my opponent decided to play the move c4, so blocking the check, and now black plays the move bishop to d3 check. Well, after bishop to d3 check, king to e1 is very risky, so the only logical reply here is king goes to the g1 square, and here I can play knight to e2 check, but I find out that if white wants, white can sacrifice the queen for the two pieces, because right now black rook is also hanging. So instead of that, I found a very strong move, and probably that's a winning move of the game, and that is rook to f5, stopping knight to coming out, and now again threatening to play the move knight to e2. And after all this, my opponent come out with the move h3. Now before h3, if white try to save the rook, let's say by rook to a1, then white will lose the queen, because after knight check, king to f1 and knight to c3, that queen is a goner. So that's why white cannot afford to save the rook. So my opponent tried to give a flight square to the king by playing the move h3, but now the task has become very easy. So I played knight check, and after king to h2, I played queen to d6 check, and here the forced reply is f4. Afterwards black will capture that pawn with the rook, and amazingly the pressure was so much that my opponent played the move g3, which allowed me to finish him instantly with the move rook to f2. Instead of the g3, if he would have played the move rook to g1, then again it's a mate in 5. It's an exercise for you, so try to find a mate in 5. So I'm showing you right now. So the first move black should play is rook to f2, so giving a check, and the only move left is king to h1. Afterwards black will give this knight check, and after king to h2, a knight to f1 check. It's a double discover check, and after king goes back to h1, we have a lovely queen to h2 check. That game will give you a very good illustration how to play against knight takes e4 and knight takes d5 line. The final move I want to consider is knight takes d5, and this is somehow the most critical move in this line, and to my surprise not many of my opponent has played this move. But anyways, you should perfectly know what you are going to do about it, because it's a very dangerous line. So here black has the only good reply, which is the castle on the queen side, and here white has the three options. So the first option which I want to look out is knight to f7. Again, similar stuff which we have seen previously, and here black should certainly capture this knight. In the view of white bishop is falling, white will go for the bishop takes c6, but here black has a wonderful shot, which is queen takes d4. So white doesn't have any time to capture the rook because the mate is threatened on f2, so white has to castle on the king side. Afterwards black will capture this bishop. Now again, here two moves has been tried. In the first game my opponent tried bishop e3, so he wants to save the bishop, but here black will be a couple of pieces up, because I replied with the move queen to f6, not only attacking the queen but also attacking the knight. And in the game my opponent tried to defend the knight with queen to h5, but after very simple g6, that knight is a goner, and that means black is a 2 piece ahead. The more sensible reply over here is knight takes rook. Afterwards black is going to capture this bishop with the knight, so attacking the rook, and after rook to e1, now black has this wonderful reply, which is bishop to g4, so hitting the queen. And please note the f2 pawn is pinned right now, so the queen has the only place to go, which is queen to c1. Afterwards black will play this amazing move, which is knight to f3 check. White response is pretty much forced. White has to capture this knight. Black will capture the f3 pawn with the bishop, and now mate is threatened. And no matter how hard white tried, so in the game my opponent tried h3, but after queen to h4, that pawn will be fall, and with that pawn the game will be over. So that is about knight to f7. The second move is bishop takes c6. Afterwards black has to play this move, which is knight takes d2. And the amazing thing is white cannot capture this knight with the queen because his own rook is hanging, and right now black is also attacking the two pieces, so white response is pretty much forced. In one of my game my opponent tried bishop cross b7, and after king takes, he played the move knight to e3, so attacking my bishop. Here I played a very cunning move, which is queen takes d4, and after knight takes f5 and queen takes e5 check, my opponent has to play knight to e3. And if you count the pieces right now, although black king is a bit shaky, but black is a clear piece up, and there are no immediate threats for the black over here, so this is a winning position for black. Instead of bishop takes b7 check, the more aggressive reply is knight to f7 once again, but here black can calmly take this bishop. The knight has been attacked, and after knight to e3, black can play this wonderful move, which is rook to d7, allowing white to capture this bishop. Afterwards e6 will be happen. Black is attacking the two knights, so very obvious response is white will capture the rook, black is going to capture that knight. And now you can see the downside of the whole transaction, that not only white cannot capture this knight with the queen, but now black is threatening to play bishop to b4, and that can be rather nasty. So in the game my opponent tried the move f3, but this turns out that the game will finish instantly. So I played the move rook to e7 check, and after only move king to f2, I capture that pawn, and after king to g3, so king is coming up to the board, which is always a good side. And here I replied with the move g5, and my opponent decided to play the move h3. So he's just giving some of the escape square for the king, but I want you to pause the video over here and find out the finishing blow. And the beautiful move is rook to e2. It looks hilarious, right? Because you're sacrificing a rook, but after queen takes rook, bishop to d6 is leading to checkmate in 2. The last and the final move I want to consider is knight takes c6, which has a cunning idea that if black foolishly captures the bishop, then knight takes a7 will fork the king and a queen. But here black has a wonderful reply, b cross c6, so attacking the 2 piece. And if white would have played bishop takes c6, then our old friend knight takes d2 will give a great deal of problem to the white. So not only white is a piece down, but black doesn't have any problems at all. So that's why bishop to c6, it's impossible. So the only logical reply is bishop to a6 check. Afterwards black has to play the move king to d7, and now that knight is hanging. So the only logical reply again is knight to e3, attacking the bishop. But amazingly enough, at this point black can again play a wonderful move, knight takes d2. So this theme crops again and again, that black can easily capture this bishop and white cannot recapture it because queen takes rook. Please remember that if the king takes knight, then those lines are very dangerous for the white. In this game my opponent tried knight takes bishop, but after e6 attacking the knight and knight drop backs to the e3, black plays the move bishop to b4. Disaster is starting to looming on the white camp. So the discover check is threatened, so the only logical reply over here is king to e2. Afterwards black can simply snap off the d4 pawn. It's just a matter of taste whose position is better. So I give you few more moves. So my opponent tried the move bishop to d3, so blocking the diagonal, and I played the move king to e7, and it's time for the assessment. Yes, material is almost balanced. Black has one pawn up, but of course it's a double pawn, so you cannot consider that much. But the big idea is, look at the major pieces of the white. They all are sitting at their original place, and look at the tremendous activity by black pieces. So all in all, you can easily say this is a winning position for the black. So I hope you enjoy this wonderful series of the Colorado. I have tried many times and I get a relatively good success. So I strongly recommend that you should follow this amazing analysis and try in your own game, and you will be amazed by how quickly you can win some of the games. Well, thank you for watching this wonderful series, and it's time to go to the next chapter, which is the Scotch game. Bye.